It's 6:40. We should start, so like promised.
Just give me like 30 odd seconds.
Sure.
Okay, so Aksar has also joined.
Okay,
Okay, so we are just beginning. We thought we'll wait for 10 odd minutes.
yeah, sure.
Sir has joined. Okay, so let me. We have been greeting to all of you, but let me formally greet all of you. Very good evening, and I've been discussing with couple of classes also. I said this is the batch where we expected a very a great achievements, and the kids has come up with this. So we have reached up to the All India rank 4. So we said, what next for us? So I said, let's go for one. But we not. It is not like but saying one. We say, okay, we want AIR one, but when I listen connects, even I listen all of the kids who actually did pretty well in their entrance tests. The way they have prepared, I think that is, I'll say, in the 11 years of my education journey, I have learned most in 3 4 days because I have. It may be because we are online now, we can hear them quite frequently. Otherwise, 1 or 2 interviews we meet 101. But now it is recorded. I can listen. I can listen a couple of times, and then I can make out what they try to say. So I must welcome Ganesh, Achisa, Pramita, Megha, and but we had also privilege to have Aksh Srinivas sir. Sir, Ganesh is also like when we say Srinivas, I think Srinivas is working for us. so so I also thanks Aksh to taking time and coming here. Sir, I like to begin the session with you, and then I'll come, and then Pulak will proceed the session. So,
ideally, may I request that we introduce the achievers first, and then I can speak. I mean, then take it a little bit from there, if that is okay.
Yes, that will be. I think that should be. Pulak, can you just introduce our achievers?
Sure. So, of course, a warm good evening, everyone. Privileged to have Aksar over here. Ramanu sir is also here. So that's great. And good to see all of you taking out time on a Sunday evening, being a part of the session and keeping your videos on. So that's like very important. So for all our classes, I guess that's the habit now. Seeing your videos on is good, makes the session, of course, relatable, interactive. So goes without saying. And of course, I'm pleased to welcome 4 of my achievers for today's event, Achievers Meet 2021. Of course, the first ever Achievers Meet for 2021. So of course, we have with us 4 achievers. First, Kanishk Srinivas, who was AIR 4 in ALET and AIR 31 in CLAT. So yes, he's from DPS Noida. We have with us Archisha Tiwari, who was 98.96 in LSAT. She was AIR 412 in CLAT. With us, we have Parimita Jha, who's a part of RGNLU Patiala, right? And we also have with us Megha Bharti, who is right now in NLU Patna, right? So we have these 4 achievers with us from different schools, from Amity International, from Cambridge School, from DPS Noida, and from Kothari International. So of course, the purpose of the session stays very simple. These 4 achievers are here with us to share their journey, their ups and downs. Of course, अच्छे बुरे moments आते हैं सबकी journey में. So of course, उनकी preparation strategy क्या रही? How did they actually balance school with competitive examinations? What are the tips and tricks that they have to share? Their success recipe. Of course, how did they manage both the exams? Of course, एक mind में बहुत basic question आता है कि मैम सर CLAT के लिए prepare कर रहे हैं. What about ALET? ALET के लिए कैसे करना है? And of course, we forget that there are a lot of things in common, and there is just these different areas that we have to work on. So of course, in today's session, we would also be hearing out as to how do we target multiple examinations at the same time, primarily CLAT and ALET, they being the major law competitive exam any student wants to target. So yes, we have these 4 achievers with us. And I, of course, say the session is there. I already told them the session is there. I am just here to coordinate, to just introduce them to the audience, to my students who are already part of the session. And they have to take forward the session ahead and they have to deal with everything. So yes, we would love to hear their journey. We would love to hear the realistic picture, not just the good part. But of course, those instances where they felt really demotivated, they felt like giving it up, and they felt like nahi ab nahi hoga. And there were those 10 p.m., 11 p.m., 12 p.m. small anxiety attacks that all of these students went through. And that's pretty normal and pretty natural in any exam preparation, especially considering the part that this year was so uncertain. मतलब pandemic तो है ही है, 2020 से हम देख रहे हैं. But if we see this year, कुछ पता नहीं कब boards होने वाला है, क्या exam होने वाला है. So with so much uncertainty around, with this pandemic all around us, कुछ idea नहीं था कब exams होने वाला है, May में होने वाला है. Then it again got pushed to June, and then we finally got a date कि हाँ, अब finally July में होने वाला है. So all of those things going side by side, क्या mind में चला था, क्या करा, and how did they come out with flying colors, and how they are on cloud 9 today is पूरी journey को सुनने वाले हैं. So yes, that's pretty much it, sir. I think now we should give them a chance to speak so that they could actually, just share their journey. So, sir, over to you. If you would like to add on something, then it should be great. Otherwise, I would directly be inviting the speakers.
No, I just as Akshay said, let's know them first, and then we'll hear sir, and then probably I'll take a couple of minutes, and then we'll hear Kanishk.
Perfect. So my first speaker for the day is Kanishk Srinivas.
Oh,
he is.
I said.
Sir,
yes.
Yeah. Okay. My bad. Sorry. Please.
No. It's absolutely fine, Polak, actually, because like you have correctly said, this is their day, and we keep talking too much every time in life. I think this is the time we will continue to keep talking, being teachers. But I think, these achievers have done us proud, and it's a great day to ensure that, when I say, and Kanishk, you can answer this question to me right away, even before. Are mocks important, Kanishk Srinivas? Can you answer this question?
I think, you just cannot refute the importance of mocks. That's a question that I think nobody should be asking, because there's no substitute for mocks in any of the exams.
But you know something, Kanishk? There are so many students who come back and ask me, Sir, mera syllabus nahi hua. So main kya karu, kind of things.
Oh my God, there's no syllabus at all. You can never finish the syllabus for a competitive exam. It's about covering the things which you feel are important and prioritizing and strategizing well.
And today's session, my friends, and with Ramanuj sir, Pulak ma'am, and everybody else, and thanks to the 4 lovely achievers, whether it is Kanishk, whether it's Megha, Archisha, or Paramita, Megha, I think we are looking at ensuring that whatever we think is right for a student to get and crack these entrance examinations, instead of listening, instead of hearing it from our mouths, I think it's important to figure out how these guys have done it well over the last 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and some of you 2 years kind of things. But before I kind of let you guys speak, Kanishk and everybody else, 2 things I'll tell you, the achievers. Guys, it's no mean task. 60,000+ students writing the exam. 60,000+ students writing the exam. And the number of seats in, whether it is engineering, whether it is BCom, whether it is your BBA, in most of those areas, the number of seats available are almost always high. Only in the NLUs, each NLU has only 70, 60, 80, 90 students. To get into those NLUs, I think it's a great achievement, and I'm really thrilled to be here, to be honest with you, and congratulate you on behalf of not just all the teachers, the CL, but also on behalf of all these students who are eagerly waiting to listen to you. But having said that, I remember there is a movie called MS Dhoni. I don't know whether you have seen it, how many of you have seen it. when MS Dhoni does a very good job and he starts really being successful, in the movie it is shown that his father calls him up and says, hey, ye success ko sar pe chadne mat dena. It's very, very important that the success is important. At the end of the day, continue to be, have the humility to acknowledge the fact that, look, you have come in because of your hard work and you have to continue to that. That's the only advice I'll give you. And for the rest of you who are really planning for the 2022 or even 2023 CLAT and other law entrances, friends, we are going to be there with you throughout this journey. We're going to tell you, help you, reduce your anxieties, give you the direction, but more importantly, I'll tell you one basic fundamental, and that's what you will listen to from the Achievers too. You will have to crack it. We are only going to be the guides. You will have to do it yourself. But I know for a fact that anybody, and trust me when I'm saying this with 100% confidence and 21 years of experience of looking at students, anybody and everybody has the ability to get into the absolutely the best NLUs. The only reason why somebody gets in or somebody does not get in is, I call it from my side, 3 points. Commitment to yourself, consistency, consistently doing basic things. Like Kanishk has said, no refuting the fact that mocks are important. Somebody will come back and say, every day I was doing some GK, etc. kind of things. We will probably listen to that. Third, but probably the most important one apart from these two, is self-confidence, confidence in yourself. I know when you are getting so low marks sometimes, how can you get confidence is one thing which, can kind of prop up. Don't doubt yourself, my friends. And that is when I think Ramanuj sir, Pulak ma'am, and everybody else who at Career Launch Hub, we are there to help you out. With that few words, Ramanuj, thank you so much for calling me. I'm going to listen to these guys now rather than I talking more of it.
Yes, you definitely. An idea was to listen then, and that's what initially I was saying. When I listened then, I learned a lot, and we made one promise to ourselves, and that's what I got from one of the person. He said, if Ramanuj, if you start learning, basically your kids are also learning, and that logic. And we thought, okay, CLAT is about this only. When you see the any of the part, even if it's legal aptitude or English or anything, each and every day we have to come out and understand the paper is not about intelligence. What sir says, commitment, persistence, and these are the key basically. And this is not the knowledge-based test. It is more of understanding of yourself and the producing the results into the examinations. So definitely, I think I'm really eager, and I have already interacted Ganesh and couple of them a couple of times, but still I'm very much hopeful. It will be learning session for me also. So I think let's hear straight away to Ganesh the way Pulak ma'am has planned. Pulak?
Yeah, so of course, I would now like to invite the first speaker of the day, which is Mr. Kanishk Srinivas. He is, of course, everyone is aware about the results, but for people who do not know, he's a rock star, superstar already. I don't know, if appointment lena padega. He's like that busy. So AIR 4 in ALET, which is NLU Delhi examination, and AIR 31 in CLAT. So yes, he's from DPS Noida. He's a school topper also. And of course, he's cracked both these exams with amazing ranks, needless to say. So now we would like to hear Kanishk, his strategy, his journey, and most importantly, something that I would like him to focus on is how did he manage to crack both, and that too with flying colors, managed to crack the best law exams of the country, the two best law exams of the country, that are CLAT and ALET. So Kanishk, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Hi, guys. So, as soon as I start, I'm going to start with a complaint. Okay. So the few people I've interacted with, the few sessions I've attended with a few of you, you left me very insecure with the kind of logic and the clarity of thought that you had. So I'm really looking forward to seeing a lot of you at NLS Bangalore next year. So the first thing I'll say is, I would request all of you to, not see any of us as inordinately high achievers, a class apart or a separate group of people. It's just that we're just normal kids who floundered along the way but just managed to get through. That's it. And there might be many factors that led to it, but we're just normal kids who have just happened to get through. So as ma'am mentioned, I'll just focus primarily on managing both CLAT and IELTS and what I did personally. So a caveat before I start, a strategy is one, especially in these competitive exams, is not a one size fits all thing. You have to pick something which suits you and which is working for you. There's no point picking a strategy just because somebody else told you, because it might just turn out to be disastrous for you. So I'll probably start with the question which probably most people have, that, are CLAT and IELTS different? Do you prepare separately for both of them? I would say the answer is both yes and no. Yes, because you have to deal with this. You have a separate strategy and a time management thing for both CLAT and IELTS, in that which section do you attempt first, how much time do you allot, and there's of course a difference to both. And then no, because the preparation for both is essentially the same. The form of the papers is different, but essentially the content is just the same. So I'll probably go forth on a section by section basis of what I did. Of course, this is all very, very subjective. This is what I did, and I don't expect all of you to follow the same, because what might work for me might not work for you. So I'll directly jump into, say, English. And all these sections, I'll speak of which exam has a more difficult paper on that specific section. And I'll also mention what I did for each of these sections. So for English, I suggest you go forward with your CLAT based reading, and you prepare from a CLAT perspective. Some people might claim that IELTS has a very rote learning based approach with your idioms and the word meanings and some stuff which you might never understand. But the advantage with going forward with a CLAT based reading approach, you're reading your newspapers, your journals, and all kinds of stuff, is that when you read a passage, you generally get a lot of words and a lot of idioms and lots of other things, some grammar usages as well, which you might not get by individually practicing them. So adopting a CLAT based reading for either of these exams works the best, at least for me. Of course, some areas in IELTS English, like say your idioms, you will get a lot of the idioms from commonly available passages, but there might be some areas where you need to specifically apply yourself and get a concentrated list of idioms and word meanings and all of that. But that's always an aberration. You can generally go forward with your your CLAT based reading and be quite sure that you'll get a lot of it. Most people tell me that with 9th, 10th, and 11th and 12th, it's quite difficult to read. You lose out on your reading habit. I did that as well. Books are not absolutely necessary, but don't skip the newspaper. Skipping a newspaper with either of these competitive exams is just suicide. Don't do that any day. Probably, as I've already mentioned in the previous videos, it's not necessary to read 15, 20 editorials a day. Pick up 2 or 3 editorials and you'll see a drastic change in your reading speed, and that's all that matters. And moving on to GK. Well, GK is really a donkey. You can beat it as much as you want and it will still not give you the results. So my personal suggestion on it is, since we're all from the same center and we all have access to the same resources, do go through the Manthan completely. If you have not started the Manthan, don't get alarmed. Now you still have a lot of time. End to end, you should be knowing the Manthan. It's not about reading it just once. It's about revising it at least thrice or 4 times. At least for this year, some content is, from the nook and cranny of the paper, something which you might not actually find in the newspaper. And it's absolutely essential to be very well versed with the Manthan. Do it at least 3 or 4 times. And it's not necessary that you do every month multiple times. It's just about doing those months on a priority basis. So for us, October, November, December were not of that great importance. But you say from January to the July period were extremely important. And I ended up doing it almost 4 or 5 times. So as that applies to you as well. So if you feel a certain month with a lot of important topics and which is very proximal to the exam, I suggest you do that a lot more times than you would do any other month. And of course, since all of you also have access to News Canvas, that is something which you should be doing very thoroughly. Well, News Canvas, they end up giving you a PhD or a thesis on that topic. So not to that extent, but you do need to know the history of the issue and all of the things which you should be knowing. Not, I see a lot of people learning up CRPC sections and doing weird, learning up, mugging up all of that stuff. That's absolutely inessential. Just pick up things which you know. Of course, everybody can judge that it's important. And those are the things which you should be working on. Moving on to legal aptitude. This is the only area where both the exams, diverge a bit. You do need to do a bit of separate practice for both. CLAT doesn't really test your legal knowledge on any of these areas, but IELTS does. And the legal knowledge section is a bit tricky, for which I would recommend the legal updates which CL provides, or even the newspaper. It's not very complicated, and almost all of it is mentioned in the newspaper. As far as CLAT legal aptitude goes, I suggest you read as many passages as you can. And towards the end, towards like just 2 or 3 months before your exam, start redoing your mocks. That's something which really worked for me. It might seem, quite stupid that, you've already done a mock and you're going forward again with it. It seems you're wasting time, but it's just that you start realizing certain patterns in the way you're attempting questions, the way you're making mistakes, and correcting those actually accelerates your, mark progress by say 3 or 4 marks. And that's a huge thing in any competitive exam. As for the IELTS legal aptitude, it's just practice, just more and more questions. And of course, IELTS does have a bit of fickleness because, the answer key sometimes turns out to be weird, but that's something we'll have to make an allowance for. And moving on to logical reasoning, this is something which really bothered me. Like 2 to 3 weeks before the exams, I was in really bad shape with this section in both the exams. I thought I was going to flunk the test. I thought I wouldn't even cross the cutoff scores because this is something I was overanalyzing. I think that's a mistake that most of us make in this section of overanalyzing. You start reading between the lines and go beyond what is mentioned in the text. Please don't do that. That is something which again went wrong terribly for me. Just be very straightforward with what they're asking you. These exams don't want to test, your doctoral skills and how much of philosophical thinking you can do. It's just about your comprehension capacity and whether you're able to grasp the essence of each passage and look for an option which best articulates it. For IELTS, I would recommend that you do your analytical reasoning part separately, because again, it's quite fickle in that it's very difficult with the analytical reasoning section. Thankfully, this year, the analytical reasoning section turned out to be, it wasn't that ambiguous as it usually is every year. Don't go with a very fixed strategy for IELTS because this exam depends on what you do at that moment. It's all about improvisation in the IELTS exam, and especially in the logical reasoning section. If you feel certain questions are difficult, if you feel certain questions are not worth the amount of time you would be spending on them, please leave it and move ahead. Don't waste too much time on those questions. You can always come back to it. Quant, I think this is a section which everybody, as soon as I mentioned quant, I could see a few smirks on a few faces. This is a section which bothers a lot of people. I'm not suggesting you end up doing class 11 and 12 math. It's just basic maths. It's just elementary maths, which all of us studied till class 10. And with just a minimal amount of practice, you can crack this section because one, it's not ambiguous. Say logical reasoning, legal, English, there's a scope for ambiguity. What you feel is the answer, is the certain answer, might not be the same for the examiner. But quant, there's no scope for ambiguity. You get an answer, that's definitely going to be the answer. And 15 marks in like say 10 minutes for the IELTS exam is a lot. And please don't miss out on this section. I think most people start with the feeling that, it's a difficult section. Why do I have to do maths as a lawyer? I'm not going to end up, doing data interpretation. We have computers for all of that. Of course, we do have computers, but it's just to develop that analytical bent of mind, which every lawyer requires. I'm not suggesting, you go overboard and again, 11th and 12th maths, not necessary. Just practice. Even if you miss out on say English, legal or logical on a day, please don't miss out on math. I have a particular affinity for maths because I had it in 11th and 12th. And then, I have a love story with maths. So I might say it, but don't miss out on maths. It's a very nice subject which earns you a lot of marks in a limited period of time. Don't have that, closed attitude towards maths. It's really a good subject which can, turn the game on either side. Most of us do well in the remaining 4 sections, and what we miss out on is maths. That is the section which can make the difference in the marks. That actually matters, because most of us will just skip that section. I know a lot of people in CLAT who missed out on that section because, of course, I did miss out a few questions as well. But if you probably didn't miss out on those questions, you'd probably have like 100 mark or rank increase in your score, and of course the rank. There's just 2 words to describe these exams. CLAT is tricky, IELTS is complex. Neither of these exams is easy, and neither is, inordinately difficult. Why do I mention that CLAT is tricky? Because the reading comprehension, reading, certain aspects and understanding the essence of the passage, that makes it tricky. And IELTS, because, they have a tendency to twist questions around, and it's just 90 minutes and 150 questions. It's very complex. That's the 2 words to describe these exams. My piece of advice for all of you is that don't have any preconceived notion before you go for the exam. As I mentioned with maths, don't think you're not going to be able to do it. Of course, one example with me was that I always thought that I would never be able to attempt the IELTS logical reasoning section. I thought I'm just going to leave it and, go on to the next. When the actual exam came, I realized that the section which I was able to attempt the most comfortably happened to be the logical reasoning section. So whatever happens, don't go with a preconceived notion that you're not going to be able to attempt that section. I would, of course, like to end with just one thing. Pick a strategy that works for you. Just because I gave you so much gyan in 10 minutes does not mean you have to follow it word by word. It's not going to work the same as it worked for me. Please pick a strategy that works for you. One very small example is CLAT. People generally allot 15 minutes. I guess people allot 15 minutes for quant generally. I increased it to 20 minutes, and I took those 5 minutes from legal. That is suicide in the CLAT exam, as most people might think. But since I was, quite comfortable with quant and it helped with my marks, I did it. Go for the strategy that works for you, not just because somebody else said it to you. That is the final piece of advice. And of course, mocks are battles and the actual exams are the wars. We do need to win the battles, but you need to focus on the bigger picture and win the war. And really, I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of you at NLS Bangalore next year. Thank you for the opportunity, ma'am.
Thank you.
That's what we were saying. You will hear like you say, okay, now you're going to learn. Archita, it seems like you're traveling, huh? So nice of you.
Celebrating her success, no. Ekdam party sharty mode mein bachche aa gaye.
Okay, so so
About
I think
to meet?
we'll be listening Archita now.
Yeah, right. So now I would like to invite Archisha. She secured, of course, AIF 412 in CLAT. At present, she's got an offer from MNLU, that is NLU Mumbai, and her percentile in LSAT was 98.96, which is again outstanding. She's from Kothari International School. So now I would like to invite Archisha, and Archisha, I would like you to focus primarily, of course, with your tips, tricks, and strategies, to focus primarily on the smart work versus hard work part, and how do you actually focus your energy in the right direction, because that becomes very important. There are times when students say 5, 6, 8 ghante pad rahe hain, but ma'am kuch ho nahi raha, sir kuch ho nahi raha. So how do you actually focus your energy in the right direction? How do you balance out well between smart work and hard work? So over to you.
Right. Firstly, I'm audible because since I'm traveling, it might be a bit of an issue. So, okay. First and foremost, I would, obviously there's a distinction between smart work, but then even your smart work requires a lot of hard work. So smart work and shortcuts are two completely different things. First and foremost, I just want to get that across. So now, after I've said that, the first point I would like to really stress upon is basically clearing your concepts, right? Because even if you look at your CLAT paper, the legal paper that came in CLAT 2021, right? It had a lot of legal concepts. And obviously, since we we were able to do it pretty easily, other than those who, wouldn't have focused too much on that. And obviously, if you want to clear your concepts, the first and foremost, I would say is very important is to attend your classes that are being conducted. Now, what happens is that obviously self-study is very important, and it also helps you a bit. But at the end of the day, once you actually attend your classes, at least for me, if you're actually attending classes, talking to other classmates, and you're looking at what is actually happening in the class, what the teacher is teaching, I just feel like, you remember it a bit more, right? And and you actually retain it in your head. So I think even for 2022 and 2023, I think by the end of this year, at least, so, at least for 2023, 1 year before your CLAT, I would say, and 2022, 6 to 7 months before your actually CLAT happens, you should be done with your concepts. Because I've seen a lot of people, and it happened with me too, like at maybe 2 months or maybe even 1 month before CLAT, sometimes I remember, oh my God, wait, there was the mixtures and allegations bit that I still can't, figure it out. And that is actually quite bad in a way, because you need to be very clear with your concepts and, not let it hinder you in the last minute. Because the thing is, these papers at the end of the day are very unexpected. You can't exactly say, like even in this year, if you look at data interpretation, right, there were no specific graphs given. And most of the questions were on percentages. So you have to be prepared for anything and everything, and you have to clear your concepts for that. Secondly, I would like to say is that each and every study session that you do, right, when it comes to smart work, you need to realize that it should be productive. And by productive, I don't mean that, you need to sit for 8 hours or 6 hours and then study completely. And, once you're done with the book, you're being productive. That's not what being productive is. Being productive in a way means that, you're learning something new from each and everything you study that day. Okay, I'll just give a small example. For example, obviously reading comprehension is very important, right? And you can never actually be technically done with reading comprehension. But then, for example, if your reading comprehension is going quite well, right? You're being able to score well in that. But subjects such as, your maths is pretty weak. And if you think that, okay, my reading comprehension is going well, and I think I need to study a bit, let me do a lot more reading comprehension. I'll just do it for maybe 1 or 2 hours, or maybe a few passages. And you think that you're done for the day, you were being very productive. No, you were not being productive as such. So being productive means you're adding value to your preparation, because time is very essential when it comes to your preparation as such. Also, obviously, a lot of people say that, you should be preparing your schedules as such. Personally, for me, I'll be very honest. I tried making so many schedules. I think I spent more time making schedules than actually following them. And I'm pretty sure it happens with a lot of other people too. So honestly, if you're able to follow your schedule, that's actually well and good. But then for people like me, I would say, who cannot actually follow a structured schedule as such, what I would like to say is that you don't have to make, from 8 to 10 p.m. or 8 to 10 a.m. I'm going to do this work, and just don't do that. What you do is, what I did at least was that, I made a daily plan as such, and I made like a weekly plan. And it's very ambiguous, like not too much into detail, but like I made a very broad plan. And then, as the day went on, I started, accumulating that into my schedule as such. So what you have to realize is that also, again, you have to be very productive in that sense. Also, there was one thing I wanted to mention was, right. Okay, I'll just give a very small example, and I've seen it happening too. We have our career launcher gives us a legal compendiums too, right? So for example, if in class you're doing a concept such as, for example, if you could say you're doing contract law or tort law, and you start doing the legal compendiums happening, and suddenly you're getting questions from criminal law or family law, things like that, which you haven't exactly done in class yet, and you're not acquainted with it. And then you're just sitting through, you're getting demotivated because you're not able to solve the questions, and you're collecting doubts, and that is not called being productive. You're not doing anything with that. So actually what I did, and what I think works pretty well, is that whatever concept that you're clear with and that you have done in class, revise that concepts, right? After you do it, and also aspiration, all of us are acquainted with aspiration, right? Your aspiration is not just your mocks. I'm just telling you, I think just take one day and explore the whole aspiration section, because it has so many things that, each and every time I go there, I discover something new in a way. So there is one thing called topic tests. You get these 10-minute topic tests that you get over there, and they are, I think 337, 350, they keep adding on to that. So for each and every concept, you get these topic tests. So if you're acquainted with the concept, you know a bit more about it, I suggest you do these tests first, right? Because honestly, after you have a bit of basic idea about a concept, then you do those questions, they will be much better for you. You'll be able to understand it better, you'll be able to learn more too. But doing a concept that you haven't done as such before, you have no clue about, no idea about, and trying to attempt those questions, those will be futile. But this is not to say that, unless until the syllabus is over, then only I'll attempt for mocks. That's a very different story. I'm just talking about, the question solving part of it. Also, I would mention about the mocks too, because when it comes to smart work, I think the most of the work that goes into is your mocks. Your mocks are pretty vital, and the schedule with you, and just follow that schedule, because all the timings that they've given, the intervals in which they give mocks is actually pretty useful. And when it comes to mocks, obviously give your mocks, but then after that, the most important part is to analyze those mocks, because that's where the smart work as such comes in. Because unless and until you actually see where you're going wrong, and mocks, it's not just about okay, I lost 5 marks in legal, or I lost around 2 marks in maths. That's not what analyzing your mocks is. Your mocks is basically seeing that okay, what was the question, what was the topic I actually lost my marks on, right? And and what should I do to work on the topic. So if you look at your session, you will get an accuracy rate, you will get your different questions and solutions. So just don't look at the solutions, look at the accuracy rates too, right? And look at all of those other factors that are accumulated into that too. For example, there's one thing that happens is that there's a section in mock analysis session which goes, what were the type of questions, and was it easy, medium, was it difficult, or something like medium, or was it difficult? So what I've realized a lot of times is when I'm analyzing my mocks, I'm seeing that I'm leaving out a lot of the easy questions, and I'm trying to attempt the difficult ones. So that is one thing you only realize you're doing once you actually do and attend these mock analysis sessions that our coaching provides, or or if you actually analyze your mocks on aspiration. Also, this is a bit going off topic as such, but I would just like to mention that personally, this pandemic here was a bit tough on me, right? I think it was tough on everyone, because honestly, I'm a person who likes being in a classroom as such, who likes to talk in class, who likes to talk to people as such. And the shift to online mode impacted me quite a bit. Like even my grades were dropping, and all of that was completely happening. And the mood swings were obviously there. For example, if I was giving a mock and I was scoring a bit low on those mocks, what used to happen was that I did not used to give a mock for 2 weeks because I got so demotivated by it, right? And I think that was a fault of mine, which I realized a bit later. Because if you see that you're scoring low on a mock, one mock does not exactly define your worth as such, or does not define what your preparation is. What you just have to do is you have to analyze your mock. You just have to realize that you've had a bad day, and I think just move on from it. You don't have to actually stop there. Even Sir mentioned before, you have to be pretty consistent when it comes to these preparations, and especially consistency comes into play, especially during especially during a subject such as GK. Because I think Kanesh also mentioned before, you cannot skip on reading the newspaper at all. Newspaper is single-handedly the most important thing reading it is so vital and so important, even honestly for all the sections in a way, right? So I think I would just like to maybe end it by saying that it's okay if you have a few bad days, if your mood goes this and that, if you get anxiety, because honestly it's pretty normal. And what's important is that you just have to analyze it, take time to just figure it out and just move on from it. And obviously, again, I would just like to repeat, smart work does not mean shortcut. You don't have to do 100 most important events of 2020 2021 and do that. That's not what you have to do. That's not what smart work is. That's shortcut, and that's basically a little suicide. What you have to do is basically analyze your way through and pick a strategy that works best for you. That's smart work for you, which is not without hard work. So yeah, that's more or less about it.
Super. See, what Arsya was talking, we used to make plans, and it may not work, but that can only give one indication to you. You change it a bit, try to make more practical. Because sometimes we try, okay, no, we'll study from tomorrow and we'll study for 6 hours, and then we realize, oh, ये तो 4 hours हो रहा है. So next day you make 4.5 hours plan rather than, obviously you need to stretch a bit because your target is to get 6. So obviously you can't go in a day. You make a plan, if fails, it just gives simple indication. It is not that practical for you. Make it a bit practical and add some extra weightage and some extra push for yourself. And but planning is important. And if lawyers will not plan, I don't know who will plan. So they plan data, they plan thoughts, they plan even what you are thinking and what you might think. Even they go up to that. So us, I think we should be ready with this stuff, and we should planning our day each and every day. It may take 10 minutes time from you, but keep a habit. I think after 15 or 30 odd days, you love because you plan each and every day. So okay, Pulak. Who next?
Yeah, so the next speaker for the day is Parimita Jha. She is a student of Amity International School, Noida, and she was All India rank 745. She's gotten an offer from NLU Patiala at the moment. And so I would like to invite Parimita now. And so Parimita, I would like you, along with, of course, your strategies, tips and tricks, like you to focus on the part that how did you balance school with competitive examinations. There were times when school kept you super occupied and you could not study for CLAT at all. How did you manage those days? And there were days when school was pretty chilled out. How did you go ahead with it? So basically the art of balancing schools with competitive exams, especially a good message for all the schoolgoers who are sitting here at the moment, मतलब जितने भी schoolgoers हैं उनके लिए a piece of advice that you would like to give, and of course highlighting and sharing your journey. So over to you, Parimita.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so hi guys. Okay, as Sir just said, it all depends on planning and who else is going to plan, if not lawyers, right? So, as far as planning goes, I'd say in terms of balancing, you need to start planning a lot and you need to start planning really early. It totally depends on how you prioritize your tasks. For example, I chose, more or less for throughout the 2 years that I prepared, I kept a strategy of 60:40 ratio. I will do all my prep, get 60% of my hard work going towards CLAT and 40% of it going towards my schoolwork. Again, this is not exactly like a one size fits all kind of strategy. You need to, prioritize your tasks, what you think is more important, or in a way that you feel that it would benefit you more. And then there are going to be certain times when school is going to be really, going to take a lot of hard work from your side, or there are going to be many classes. You have 6 hours of classes a day, you have a test tomorrow morning. In those cases, you need to put more time towards schools, obviously. And then there are days that you have one class a day. For example, if I had to have, say, a class of only English from 8:30 to 9:30 in the morning, then I would go through with that. From 8 to 8:30, I'll revise whatever topics I have done, and for school as well. And in a way, since English is a common subject for both school and CLAT, and in pattern also, they are very similar because the reading you do for school, in a way, does help you for the reading that you do for CLAT. So I'll spend half an hour revising for that. I'll attend my class, and then I will re-revise whatever I learned in class that day and try my best to correlate those topics to whatever CLAT preparation I'm doing so that it benefits both sides of my prep, right? And for example, there were kind of moments that since it's no longer a world where board exams decide the entirety of everyone's future, because as you could see with the 2020 and 2021 batch, we got our marks done on the basis of our internal exams as far as schools are concerned. So again, there is a need for consistency for both sides. You cannot let go of CLAT prep in a way that you do it only for the 3 months before the exam or 1 month before the exam. You need to do it for at least 6 or 7 months consistently for subjects like GK and even English in a way. So as Kanishka and Archisha have already said, please read the newspaper. If you don't, it is practically like suicide, because it's going to help you in 4 out of 5 sections of your CLAT prep. It's going to help in English, it's going to help in GK. It's going to help you, get that kind of logical mind you need for logical reasoning, and even in terms of legal knowledge or legal reasoning, because even if they don't give you the exact same passages, you're going to have kind of an idea of the kind of concepts that they're going to give you in CLAT and AILET. So that's one thing. And another thing I would say is that for both schoolwork as well as CLAT, you really need to take mocks, because that would help you identify all the areas which For example, if you find out that you're good at English, you can maybe decrease a little bit of time or only revise the concepts which you need to revise. Or if you find out like you have some sort of weak area, then you get to spend more time trying to improve that area instead of spending an equal amount of time on all places. Like, for example, in terms of schoolwork, I was good at psychology and say English, and I was like really bad at economics. So I used to spend like 3 hours a day, and I used to take like 1.5 hours for economics, and the rest of the time I would kind of alternate between my subjects. Like I do English one day, or I do say psychology one day, or I do pol science one day, because I didn't need to put in as much effort in those subjects as I needed to do in economics to ensure that I have, if nothing, then an above average, like 80 to 85% score in all of my subjects. So like I just wanted to ensure that I scored like at least 85% in all 5 of my subjects. So, and that was kind of the safe score I built for me, that I would really not like my scores to go below that. So that kind of approach is gonna really be helpful, because that helps you set up like a guideline that, okay, this is the part which below which I know that I need to spend more time on this kind of thing. As far as schoolwork and class goes, you need to try to identify the most common things which you find between the two things. Like, for example, our English reading and everything, any kind of reading is actually helpful for the English section and the GK section to a certain extent, because this was actually a very random thing which happened to me during CLAT, because there was this one question in the GK section which said, when was the word sustainable development first used? And the answer to that was the Brundtland report, but I did not actually know that through all of my reading for my CLAT prep. That thing I knew through a chapter which I had read in English during my schoolwork, actually. So you need to find out like all sorts of common points which may help you, benefit you from both sides. And lastly, I would like to like deviate from the topic which I've been talking about till now for a little bit. And I'd like to say that if nothing, then you need to really ensure that mentally you are in a good place for at least a majority of your prep. For example, like if you set a target, say I have to do 6 hours today, but like you studied for 4 hours and your head is hurting and everything, and you're just really, really tired, then whatever you study further is not really going to be as good as it would have been if had you studied it with a fresh mind. So even during the day of the CLAT, it is a good idea to have a calm and positive mindset, because the more calm you are, the less likely you are to panic, and the more likely you are to be able to solve all sorts of questions in a good way. Because as far as it goes, the calmer you are, the better you are at time management as well. And we all know how important time management is for competitive exams such as CLAT and AILET. So I would just like to say that please try to keep a very positive mindset, and please don't get discouraged by things like mock scores, because yes, mocks are really important, but you may have a bad day, and it's all right to have a bad day. So yeah, that's what I would like to end at. Please be positive, and all the best for your preparation.
Perfect. Thanks, Paramita. So yes, staying positive is important, especially when you're taking your exam on the D-Day. तो जैसे आपका स्टेट ऑफ माइंड रहेगा वैसे आप एग्जाम दोगे, क्योंकि बहुत बार होता है कि वी आर लाइक सुपर इंटेलिजेंट, बहुत अमेजिंग करा मॉक में, लेकिन एग्जाम में एकदम पैनिक कर गए, तो जो दिमाग चल भी सकता है वो शायद ना चले. सो इट इज ओके, इट्स नॉट द एंड ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. ऑल ऑफ अस ट्राई टू डू आवर बेस्ट, बट जब तक पैनिक कम नहीं करोगे, स्ट्रेस कम नहीं लोगे, तो अपना बेस्ट नहीं दे पाओगे. और ये सुनने में बहुत ऐसे स्कूलिश और बहुत लेक्चरिश टाइप लगता है. जब मैं बोल रही हूँ तो मुझे लग रहा है, आई एम श्योर so many of you must be thinking that in your mind, but then that actually works. It works. So, and of course during your entire preparation you may have a bad day. मॉक्स आपको सिर्फ एक पिक्चर दिखाएंगे, बट एकदम एग्जैक्ट ऐसे रेप्लिका नहीं है कि जैसा मॉक में किया वैसे एक्चुअल एग्जाम्स में ही करोगे. आपको एक आइडिया मिलते जाता है कैसे प्रिपेयर करने वाले हो, हाउ आर यू गोइंग टू गो अबाउट इट. दैट इज इट. Staying positive, that Paramita pointed out, is very, very, very important. Okay, so my next speaker for the day is Megha Bharti. She's from Cambridge School, Noida. Her rank in CLAT was 1082, and she's now a part, I mean, not still a part of, she's got an offer from CNLU Patna. So I would now like to invite Megha to come forward, share her journey. Of course, with that, I would like you to focus on 5 tips and tricks that's actually needed to crack these law entrances. So, ऐसे कोई shortcut तो नहीं है, definitely, but again, कौन से ऐसे 5 very 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 important points or in short tips and tricks that you would like to share with students that are very 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 important to crack these law entrances? So over to you, Megha.
Firstly, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir, for inviting me here. I remember we had an achiever session for last year's achievers, and I could not attend it. And I was very worried because I wanted to ask a lot of questions that time. And back then, I did not imagine I would be here in 2021's Achievers Meet. So thank you for inviting me. And I think most of what I wanted to say has been said by Kanishk, Parimita, and Archisha. So in a way, I will recap it all for you and add some personal tips and tricks I have experienced and would like you to know and think might help you. So the first and foremost thing that you will hear every single time is that time management is very essential. And I want to point out that this goes for 2 things. For the 2 hours that you're sitting and giving the mock, but what is fundamental there is also the time management you have put in for your preparation for the previous year or half or more. So you have to manage the way you're preparing as well as the way you're like attempting the mock. So it might sound like I'm mothering you, but for all of you who are waking up at 12 or 11:30 in the morning, please, personally, I'm telling you, start waking up early. Once you start waking up earlier and are ready by 9 or 9:30, trust me, you will realize you have a lot of time in a day. A lot of time. You will realize by like in a week or 2 that it's just 12 in the noon. You have the whole second half left and you're already covered a lot of topics. So please start waking up early and start utilizing your time more. Secondly, for those students who are in school right now, there is one thing, this is called a priority matrix. So I used it back in my school and I would like to recommend it all to you, especially to science kids. I know it's very hard for you. You have a lot of work, practicals and all. So this priority matrix is a table type thing and it will help you prioritize what tasks are important and what tasks are your priority. Like something you need to submit tomorrow, but might not be that important. Maybe it's not graded, but yes, you need to submit it tomorrow. So because time management is key, using this will help you go through all your schoolwork on time, finish what is important, and also separate your time for CLAT preparation. And other than that, I want to point out that studying for 2 hours in a day or 2 hours continuously and 6 hours continuously, you will hear people say, oh, I studied for 9 hours in a day or 9 hours continuously and all. Okay, do not stress over it. I am telling you, people who tell you they've studied for so long continuously, half of them do not retain anything they've read because our brains are not capable of focusing for that long on a subject. Or even if you change subjects, you have to let your brain and yourself breathe and some buffer time. So for those of you who have trouble concentrating on one topic or one subject for a continuous period of time, there is a technique. It's the 50-10, 40-20, and 30-30 studying technique. You can try that. Essentially, what you do is you take an hour, divide it. You can start by 30-30, but personally, you should go with 40-20 or 50-10 and then eventually increase it. Study for 30 minutes. Do not do anything. Focus and study for 30 minutes. Then take a break for the next 30 minutes. Eventually progress to 40-20, 50-10, and eventually you'll see you are able to concentrate and retain. It is very important that you retain what you read. So please make sure that if even after 40 minutes you think you are having a headache, you are sick of it, stop. It's okay to take breaks because retaining is more important than just pushing yourself through studying it. Okay, so try that technique. And personally, the last thing that has worked for me is setting a reward system. I know like 1 year or 2 years, if you're preparing for it from 11th is a very long time. And because consistency is a key, if from the start your goal is to study 12 hours in a day and you're forcing yourself to do it and not doing anything you enjoy, eventually you're going to have a phase where you're very demotivated. I'm sorry. You'll have a time where you realize that you haven't been doing anything and you'll not be at a place mentally where you feel like you will either do good in class or you have had a time where you've enjoyed yourself, but you forget what kind of consistency or planning you have done. So for that, set a reward system for yourself. Personally, I set a reward system of 1 week. So I set a schedule for myself that in this 1 week, I will finish July's, suppose, GK or June's GK, and some legal topics, some English topics, some maths topics, and a few questions from logical reasoning. Once I'm done with that, I divide my time and do it all. I focus and do it all. Then I reward myself. Because your goal should be to have a day or a week that is productive enough by your standards that when later on you do something you enjoy, you do not feel guilty. If you have done, say, a passage or two, or just read the newspaper in a day, and then at night you decide to do something you enjoy, read a book, play a game, something. And while you're doing that, it is at the back of your head that I've only done, say, 2 passages. Then your day hasn't been productive and you're wasting time doing what you're doing. So please prioritize your work and set a reward system for yourself. Take breaks and divide time in a way you're actually retaining what you read. Secondly, like Kanishk and a lot of others have already pointed out, don't overthink your answers, please. And don't overanalyze. These people, the paper setters, they're not there to test you how deeply you can analyze a given situation, how deep down you can dig in it. So don't do that. You have to understand that in these competitive exams, because time management is the key, you can spare only a minute and a half at max per question. So while you're doing that question, you have to keep in mind that, okay, these are the information. My answer should just click in my head. Don't dig into deep. Don't overanalyze the words they're giving, okay? They want to see whether you can identify which principle it fits in or whether you can identify the flaw in the given situation. And trust me, most of the times, your instinct will give you the right answer. And the third thing is GK and current affairs. This is one thing that is going to bother you till the last day. I can guarantee it. Even at the last day, last night, you're going to think, okay, maybe I should have revised that one more time. Just before the exam, you're going to think, maybe I should pull out the newspaper and read it one more time. So please understand that this goes for every single one who's preparing the exam. No one will be able to finish all the GK and current affairs you can do. So do not beat yourself over it. Your goal should be to read the newspaper or any GK source you have. Judge whether this is actually important for my exam. Say I read a building collapsed in XYZ city. I'm going to read it. Now, is this really important for the exam? Do you think they're going to ask which building collapsed in what city? No. So do not concentrate over it. Skip it, okay? Just skim through it. You have to develop this habit of judging by the heading or by the event. Okay, this is actually important from my exam perspective. Now, GK and current affairs will be of 2 types, static and continuing. And for the continuing GK, I'm going to restate this for the 4th time because this is that important. Please read newspapers. Read newspapers daily. Do not let them pile up. I let them pile up once and it was a headache. So please read newspapers daily. And I want you to understand the logic behind this. While you're reading the newspapers, you might not retain everything that's given and you might think, okay, this is not that important. But later on, say they give you an event that wasn't in the source you were reading, say aspirations or something, by chance, but that was mentioned in the newspaper, then you're going to be familiar with that event. And trust me, being familiar with an event or a topic gives you confidence that, okay, I might not know the details, but I know this event. And while you're reading through the passage in the paper, you're going to start recalling what you read. So please keep reading the newspapers. They're very important for the continuing events that happens. Other than that, Aspiration has a lot of resources. Please go through them. And besides that, there are 4 things that you'll find are almost always asked in these law entrances. They are about international organizations or intergovernmental organizations, important awards, indexes, and border disputes. So I'm telling you these 4, and I think you'll by yourself notice if you read the previous year questions. Make lists of this if you can, or just find any resource available on the net, or you can ask your teachers if they can compile it for you. Go through this like once in a week or like twice in a month in a way. So, okay, Samriddhi, I said international organizations or intergovernmental organizations, important awards, indexes, and border disputes. I have just mentioned 4. There can be more that you will realize by going through the previous year questions. You can make lists or ask your teachers. They will compile it for you. These are events that are going to be asked in most of the exams. And even if they're not asked, you have to do them. Okay, so make lists, go through them, revise them. Don't do them daily, but do them at a frequent pace. My 4th point is that CLAT is comprehension based, meaning your English and comprehension skills should be amazing. And for that, you need to read a lot of content. Like, let me tell you, there was a passage about Sherlock Holmes and Watson in this year's English passage, and I glanced through it, and the moment I read the first words, I was delighted because I knew what they were, I was familiar, and I knew I could get every question in that passage correct. What this tells me is that familiarity is the key. Like, they can ask you topics from anything: science and research, space, cosmos, literature, business, statistics, philosophy, politics, everything. So, of course, you cannot excel in each topic, but what you need to do is make sure that you have read passages from these topics a lot of times. So, personally, I dislike commerce-based topics. I'm not that good at them. No matter how many times I read them, I cannot deal with them. So every time I see a passage with repo rate or interest rate mentions, I'm like, okay, again. But I still attend them because I've read these passages a lot of times. So even if I dislike the topic, I am familiar. Okay, I know what all they're going to say, percentages and all. I will do it. So make sure you read these passages or a lot of variety of topics like these. I've mentioned a few, you can compile more. And also, you don't need to go out there and search for passages of these topics. Once you're reading the newspaper, you'll find that these are mentioned in the editorials very frequently. So newspaper basically covers up a lot of your things. So yes, I'm saying it again, please read your newspapers. And there is a mantra, yes, best way to deal with these kind of variety is to get acquainted with them beforehand. Other than that, I have the last point I have here is probably, from my perspective, the most important one, and it is to be prepared for surprises. Okay, you have to understand that there will be things, there will be parameters that you have no control over, that no one has any control over, that might favor someone else, might not favor you, and that's okay. This is something that will always happen. You just have to give your best. Besides that, worrying about something that you do not have control over is not going to get you anywhere. So please don't stress over it. Prepare as per the set pattern, but always keep in mind that the consortium specifies what can come in the exam, but not what will not come in the exam. Now, this is very smart wording from them. What this essentially means is that you have to do everything they've mentioned and more, because they have not said that this topic will not come. From the past few years, you've seen that principle fact questions have come in legal, and you've prepared it thoroughly. But by chance, next year, they ask a lot of legal aptitude questions. You have to prepare them. They have not said that they're not going to ask legal aptitude questions. Okay, you have to prepare them, because trust me, preparing for the worst is better than walking out of the exam hall furious because you did not prepare them. Because there will be kids who prepared them, and they will be there in one of the best NLUs, and I want you guys to be there. So prepare for the worst, and then you will eventually be in one of the great NLUs. One of the last mantras that I personally followed is aim higher and hit high. What this means for me is that if in a day I wanted to set a goal of 20 GK events for myself, I did set that goal. Now 20 GK events, because I used to do it from News Canvas, and like Kanish pointed out, they give you a lot of information, a lot. Okay, so that's, you spend a lot of time per event. So what I was saying is ki I set a goal of 20 events, but I was only able to do 14 because I did 7 in the morning, 7 at night. And that was okay. That was perfectly fine because 14 GK events from news canvas in a day is a lot. And you have to be consistent with it because I remember I've been doing 14 events since I think March or February. So set a goal that's higher than what you think your capability is to achieve. Because once you set that, only then you can drop down a little low and hit a very high score. So if you think you can only do 9 hours of study a day, set a goal for 10 and strive towards it. Strive towards it, and trust me, you will eventually settle down on the 9 that you actually can do it. Okay. And besides that, I would just like to say, please take breaks, keep talking to your teachers. They're always there for you. I know you're going to be demotivated some part of the time, but that's okay. Do not let the mock scores affect you. Please understand every mock is different. Okay. I know there are mocks that I have done horribly. Then there are other mocks that I was really good at. So that will keep happening. It's usually not going to be consistent. But what your aim should be to keep on doing mocks no matter what score you get, because you have to be familiar with the pattern. You have to fix a time limit per section. So do not let your scores demotivate you. What will eventually matter is how you've performed in those 2 hours during the exam. So that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Yeah, so I guess काफी अच्छा रहा, मतलब सब लोग बिल्कुल ऐसे सुन रहे थे, मैं भी ऐसे सुन रही थी. So pretty good list and
super, like the way you spoke, the way you put up the points.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what, if I really, when I listening, even Ganesh, Archisa, Pramita, Mega, what is common in them is actually they have planned. It is not like something just was happening and they got through something a very good rank. They have actually worked towards it. So if I just share something, because I really I'll wish the kids will ask questions. That is the more important one. Guys, you have an analyst invite from Ganesh. और क्या चाहिए? Invite from such a wonderful college. Grab it and be a unit to Ganesh. Take a party. Bangalore is a very good place to take party. तो एक तो बहुत बड़ा एक मिला. Second, when I was listening Archita, she talks about one thing which says class memory, and which if I talked about to the many people. Even I teach concept guys in the class many times, which has been taught to me in my classes. वो जो पढ़ के जो concept होते ना, that retain for a less time. But if somebody is teaching in the live class, or right now it's a online one, still that live is there. वो YouTube नहीं देखना. वो liveness के लिए बहुत important है. You will able to retain those concepts for long. Do not miss your classes. This is really very important. कुछ भी होता है, मतलब even I request all of you, if you can afford 2 internet connection to different companies, please do that. Like I have a Airtel and Jio with me. वो एक तो रहेगा. What it takes hardly 700-800 rupees a month. If you can afford as a family, you can look, this is my advice, keep it, because any moment of time we miss the classes due to network, we will not going to afford it. So class memory is very important. Talking to the faculties, teachers, not for the questions. It is also like, what should I do? Just like a chat. I wanted to meet, I wanted to talk to you, and that kind of things are there. We are the part of you. Like our centers are nothing but you. Think about it. Center was closed. Physically, there was nothing called CL, the career launcher, sector 62 Noida. Nowhere is there. It is closed, nobody can visit. Still it prevailed. We are there. We are attending the classes. We kept alive those concepts of Greater Noida Center, Noida Sector 6 Center, because it is there in our head. We feel like we are part of it. I say from my team side, I have been there for long, and now the Pulag is there, Amit sir is there, Neil is there. So many faculties has been teaching your classes. please talk to them any point of time. थोड़ी सी शिकायत मेरे से रहती है कि थोड़ा मैसेज किया, रिप्लाई नहीं आया, दोबारा दूसरा मैसेज डालना है, सर मैं नंबर ही क्यों दिया था जब आपको रिप्लाई नहीं देना था. I think the moment you write this, I'm going to call. You say anything, I think absolutely okay for me. When Pramita was talking like bad days and how the mocks goes wrong, and then still, and it says like it is the mock. That's what its name is, mock. It is just like विराट कोहली अगर किसी प्रैक्टिस सेशन में आउट हो गए तो फिर नेक्स्ट बॉल आराम से, कभी बैट उठ नहीं पटकता, वो बोलता है यार फिर से बॉल पे, let's go for it. And we have just gone through Olympics and all. We have listing stories of the people. क्या बात करें, ऐसे जैसे जगहों की स्टोरी है ना, ऐसा लगता है we are blessed to have resources. हमारे पास तो resources क्या, we are in NCR, we are from good families, we are affording to stay in metro. बहुत fortunate हैं. Please take these as a strength, and we need to really go from here. Obviously, Megha says Miss Achievers one. Megha, welcome. It's a welcome move to come in Achievers meet. Really nice to listen. You really like putting the way you talked about the reward system, and then you really gave a very good words to the kids. Aspirations are important. Make a rule: 30 minutes minimum. मतलब जैसे सांस लेना important है. I need to breathe each and every moment. Similarly, I need to log in for my aspiration account each and every day for 30 minutes just to roam in, read something like this. That should be no habit. Reading newspaper, each and everybody has said. I think now it's time to put a question to these four of people. I may be a part of it. So let's listen others, and then I'll also put a question to these people.
Yep. So of course, like promised, we'll have a Q&A, another 10-15 minutes. Questions from your end. Please type in your questions, type it to everyone so that I could direct it to the respective person. If you think, yeah, so just shoot, matlab, just let's get started. You could unmute yourself and speak up. That of course is the preferable way we would want. But if you're too shy, so please chat to Vilik Sakte. But please do everyone type karna. Okay, so. Okay, so ma'am, and okay, Sampriti.
First question.
May I ask a question?
Yeah. Don't seek permission. Fatafat. The session is yours.
I just wanted to ask, a lot of you guys said that News Canvas gives a lot of information. Like, I mean, even I read it every day. Sometimes the document is 8 pages long, and some days it's 15 pages long. So kabhi sometimes you open the document, you're like, oh my god, this is already 15 pages long. Wo hi dekh ke kabhi aise ho jata hai, itna sara information. Do you guys think it's better to prioritize the first time that you're reading this document, that all right, this much of history may be not important, or do you guys think you should just read all of it all the time?
Any one of you can answer. Please go ahead. Anyone?
May I?
Yeah.
So personally, what I've done, if I see that, okay, I open an event and it's like 20 pages long or 17 pages long, I know that there's going to be information I'm going to skip or skim through. So my goal has always been to do each and every event at least thrice, and the important ones 4 times. So I made a calendar and I marked them, how many times I've done them. That really helps. You can try that. Besides, if you see, you're going through the event, you see, okay, they've stated these facts. These are important. You read them, you concentrate on them. Then you come to the history. Histories are always important, by the way. But then you notice that they're going very far back, or maybe some of the trivial things are mentioned. Personally, please read them. You might not focus on them, that's okay. But make sure you read them. And say there's a 15-page document and you have set yourself at a timer of like you have to only give 7 minutes per event if that's what you're doing. Suppose you exceed that, that's okay. Every event is usually different. Some of the recent events you'll see they are very much longer because the current affairs events, they tend to give more information. So basically read everything. Skim through the parts you think are not that important, but make sure you read everything. Or if you set yourself a goal that you have to do every event thrice or twice, then personally first time read everything with full concentration. Then in the next times, you can skip through or skim through the ones you think are not that important. Okay.
Yeah, but reading, that's a good point. But reading all of it becomes important because see, एक चीज समझो, it's a MCQ paper, ऐसे subjective paper नहीं है. तो at least एक बार पढ़े भी रहोगे तो back of the mind तो information थोड़ी रहती है ना, कि कल को 4 options आ गए, you would at least be able to figure out कि okay, if not A, then definitely it is between B or C or B or D. Reading all of that becomes important, but of course chalking out and eliminating the unimportant content, and that would just come with time and practice. मतलब first day पढ़ोगे तो it looks like you know everything, but then with time you get to know acha this content is important, you need to really put inside and you need to filter it out, so that way you get an idea. Samriddhi has a question, how do you know which topic event is important? So any one of you, yeah.
Just to add on this, even couple of you guys were talking also. When you read anything, when people say, sir, how should I read newspaper? Because मैंने तो पढ़ा ही नहीं है, तो मुझे तो बहुत सारी बातें नहीं पता. हमने कहा तुम धरती पे आए हो ना, तुम्हारे आने से धरती शुरू हुई है ना, हम सब चले जाएंगे तो भी धरती बंद हो जाएगी. Basically, we are on the midway. So be happy to enter anywhere from any event. So if I read today, what will happen? Something might have happened earlier and they have analyzed. But ऐसा भी तो हो, कुछ आज हुआ होगा जो कल cover होगा. I think you start reading newspaper, write my words. After 15 days, you feel like तुम्हें सारी बातें पता है. Because वो कहानी तुम थोड़ा हर जगह सुन रहे थे. And something you started doing it where you felt like तुम्हें तो ये कभी जीवन में सोचे नहीं, ये भी तुम्हें पता होगा. Boss, because you just saw 1-2 words over there, you will able to think, अच्छा ये बात उस दिन देखी थी. This is what they refer today, and that is what. Just read for 15 days without worried about it कि यार मेरे को तो पता ही नहीं है क्या क्या बातें लिख रहे हैं. Just read next day, फिर next day, and then you'll see after 15 days तुम्हें सारी बातें पता. I think we can go on the questions.
Okay, so I had a question. Like, almost every one of you said that you will have bad days where you won't perform as well as you expect yourself to. So, how do you deal with it?
Ganesh.
Yes, sir. Of course, as everybody said, you will have the bad day. I suggest that on that day, if you're trying to remedy everything, it's not going to work. What I suggest is, like, take a half an hour or an hour's break and get back to what you feel you did wrong. So let's say there's a mock which you scored terribly in. I don't suggest that you go back to that mock immediately. Probably the next day, pick it up and look at where you went wrong. There will always be a pattern of mistakes that you have repeated. Probably you were not in the best frame of mind when you were attempting that mock, or probably you were just distracted, or you were just tired, or something of that sort. Just figure out why that went wrong and just move on. Don't get stuck on that, and don't let that affect the next day's performance. That's how you move on. Don't bog yourself down. Don't think of the previous mock as an indicator of your worth or of your performance level. Just move on, get on to the next mock. I have personally had an experience with my mock marks going all the way up to 127 and coming back down to 98, 97. Don't let that bother you. And of course, if you have a bad day, it's very important not to, just let it go and move on. Do analyze it, but later on, not immediately on that day, because you're not going to get what you made wrong, what went wrong. Do analyze it, but the next day, let there be a gap and figure out what went wrong.
Important, yes. So other questions, I'll request other achievers to quickly answer all of these. So Samriddhi has a question directed to Megha. She wants to know more about the priority matrix. Achal, so Paramita, why don't you deal with this question? Achal has a question, how do you go ahead with the static GK part? Also, somebody has a question, how do you find out which strategy will work for us? So first we'll hear out Paramita and then Megha, her specific question. Yes.
Right. Okay. So as far as the question goes as to how do you find out the strategy which works for you? Well, in a way, it is trial and error, because first you don't have to try out whatever has worked for you in the past. Like, you must have given like other exams in the past, right? Even if it's only school exams, you know what kind of thing works for you. How do you learn? Are you a visual thinker or are you an auditory thinker? Is it easier for you to learn through diagrams or whatever? So, for example, say I am very good at following a schedule, like if not a time schedule, say, if I just have to make a checklist of things and I like to pick things off that checklist, right? So I would move forward with that kind of approach, knowing that this is what I like and this is what I'm good at. And this is what has worked for me in the past. So it requires a bit of introspection on your part. And in a way, the more you try, the more you work on it, the better your strategy would be. Like if on one day it takes you, say, 1 hour to do this one thing, the next time you try to do that same thing, you're going to know that, okay, this is how I have to approach this thing. And it will take you less time to do that. So in a way, it's going to take you around like, say, 10, 15, or even like a month to figure out a strategy which you know that sure shot works for you. And when you find a strategy that works for you, it's going to show even in, say, your marks or sectional tests, or even during class. Like you can see that, okay, my concepts are getting clearer and I know how to do this, and I'm doing this in a less amount of time than it usually used to take me. It's going to work. You're going to know when it starts to work for you. And as far as static GK goes, the compendium which you get from Career Launcher, for general knowledge, that covers the majority of the things that you need to know for static GK. And another thing that I've noticed about static GK is that, for example, say you get a question about awards, or say the Academy Awards or like Nobel Prizes, then most of the time static GK questions are going to be related to the same thing. Like if there is any sort of extraordinary event which has happened in the recent past, or even in the past of that, those kind of awards, or some sort of anomaly in an index that you've read about, then those kind of things, like all of your static GK is going to relate to your current events in one way or the other.
Right.
Plus, like there is like a really low chance of you guys getting more than, say, 5 or so questions about static GK. So like spend some time on it, but don't spend a whole lot of time on it. Like just try to keep it as a very small section of the time you devote to GK in general. A lot of it you just want to know by reading the history of all the events that you're going to be doing for current. So I think that's enough. So that's all from my side.
Okay. Thank you, Paramita. A question specific, like for Archisha, could you please elaborate on how different LSAT is from CLAT, and which strategy worked for you, and what exactly, how was it? So if you could elaborate on that, that should be great, Archisha.
Yes, I'll just do that. So LSAT is a bit different from CLAT in the sense that 2 sections don't count, which is your maths and general knowledge. These 2 sections are not a part of LSAT at all, right? So in LSAT, you have one section called analytical reasoning. You have 2 sections of verbal reasoning, or the critical reasoning that we do. And we have another section, which is again your English reading comprehension section. So if you're preparing for CLAT, your reading comprehension section is more or less covered in that. And to be honest, I would say that, LSAT passages, even though they're longer, you get a bit more time per passage for that. For example, it's a bit different because you need to prepare for LSAT section wise. There are 4 sections and you will get only 35 minutes per section. And in English, you get 4 passages. So you get a good amount of time for each section. And the thing about LSAT in a way that I really like is that the passages are very interesting. So what they have decided is that they are going to give 4 passages, and they've decided on which topics to give passages. So there will be one humanities passage, there will be one natural science passage, and there will be one humanities, natural science, legal passage, and one basically social science and history passage. So they've already divided that accordingly. For critical reasoning, again, it's more or less like the critical reasoning that you do in your CLAT. But then the critical section of LSAT, I would say, is a bit tougher. So LSAT is not that tough. What you only have to do is basically look at the past LSAT India papers. So LSAT India and LSAT US, because LSAT is mainly an exam that originated from US, right? So more or less the pattern is the same, but the difficulty level of India is a bit lower than the US level of difficulty for US. So what I did was that I took around, I think 10 to 15 days. I prepared for LSAT for 10 to 15 days in between my CLAT prep. And what I did was I did all of the previous LSAT India papers, and it's, I think, easily, readily available if you register for it. Also, what I did different was that I did a few US papers too, because critical reasoning was one section I was struggling in. So what I did was, to practice more, I just did a few LSAT US papers too. So what a little advantage doing the US papers do to you is that, when you actually write the LSAT India, it seems a bit easier than the ones that you practiced upon. So that was a bit of the advantage I got. And analytical reasoning is different. So it's not your usual, series completion or things like that. It's basically, you must have seen conditional logic, right? Basically the puzzle games that come, like, seating arrangement or grouping or things like that. So it's the conditional logic that comes. And it's not like, it's analytical is different in the sense, not because your whole puzzle will be formed in one go. They will give you a brief idea about it, and each question, they will give you additional information. So that's how you go about it. So your critical reasoning and analytical, because this conditional logic is also very helpful for your A-Lit prep. Because I think since like 3 to 4 years, a question of conditional logic is always coming in the A-Lit paper. So in a way, it's not very different. It's just that, you have to do your past papers more for your LSAT. So I think that's more or less about it.
Yeah, perfect. Megha, okay.
Ma'am,
Yeah. Yeah, Shelza, please. I guess some net issue. Okay, I guess, so I'll request achievers to take these questions and you could reply through chat also in case, if somebody is not comfortable in muting and speaking, you could, of course. How much time should we give to each subject? Any one of you can answer it. Paramita, Archisha, Kanish, Megha, any one of you, please. Very quickly, if you could do that, because we're already running out of time. It's 8:06 already. If there are repetitive questions, we can avoid. If there are questions that are different, we're taking them. While reading the newspaper, I start reading it very energetically. But when I read 4 to 5 pages, this is because you're not prioritizing. So how do you prioritize reading newspaper? Can anyone in 2 lines answer a question? Just 2 lines. How do you prioritize reading newspaper? 2 lines. Any of the achievers, please. Kanish, batao.
Yes, ma'am. This is a very intuitive type of thing. As Megha mentioned, a building collapse in some city and the Afghan peace talks. I guess you can definitely differentiate between the two.
Right.
You get a hang of it by reading the newspaper every day. You regularly notice some questions which get repeated in mocks or, probably your master stroke sessions or the Manthan. Pick up those topics. Don't delve too much into details which are not going to come at all. And don't be too harsh with yourself. If you're getting tired in 4 or 5 pages, give yourself a break and, prioritize once again.
Okay, perfect. 2 lines worked. Okay, which section do you start with while giving CLAT or ALET? So any one of you can answer it. Megha, do you want to go next? Which section do you start with?
I start with GK, because
Okay.
with GK, you either know the answer or you don't.
Right.
So you have to just make sure, like, fix a time. Like, ideally it should be 7 to 8 minutes, but that's not what happens. So like at max 10 minutes for GK, do the things you know. If you don't know an answer, it's okay. Because then after the 35 questions, okay, I've only attempted 10 questions. So you'll have the mindset that you need to attempt a lot more and be more precise in the other sections. If you have attempted 30 questions and you know you're right, then you'll already be at an advantage and you will be at a better mindset while giving the mock straight up from the start. So personally, I start with GK. It really depends. If someone is good with maths and they know they're really quick, they can start with maths too.
Okay, perfect. Is there anyone, this question thoda sa skip ho gaya because there are a lot of chats that are happening. You just unmute and speak. There should be better. Shelza, please.
Should we make notes of some important editorial pages or current affairs?
Okay, should we make notes of some important editorial pages or current affairs? Anyone in 1 line, please? Any of the achiever? Archisha, Paramita, your turn.
I don't think notes as such are quite important because the portals that we get are already notes in a way.
Yeah.
Ma'am, for editorials, if you want to make it more interesting, what you can do is you can time yourself using the editorials. So it becomes a bit competitive and a bit different in a way. So I used to time myself in a way. So in a way that becomes more interesting in that sense. You don't need to make notes as such for it, but keep doing it. Yeah, keep reading them. That's the main important thing.
Okay, and for Paramita, last question: how do you manage CLAT preparation in school? Another 2 lines, please.
Right. Okay, as far as CLAT preparation and school goes, again, you need to prioritize what is more important. Like, again, I gave you the example. Let's say you have a test in the morning, like for school. If it's something that is not as important as another task which you need to do for CLAT, or if it's not being graded, you can let go of it, right? Okay, you may not perform as well as you could have performed had you not had something else lined up. But it's all right. So you need to kind of prioritize what is more important for you. and go forth that ways.
Right.
There's really no other way. You can't have it all. So there's something which is going to come first and something which is going to come later. And it's totally up to you as what you find more important in a way.
Yeah, मतलब 24 घंटे ही हैं और तुम हर चीज में परफेक्ट नहीं हो सकते. तुमको देखना पड़ेगा कौन सी चीज कम इंपॉर्टेंट है, कौन सी ज्यादा है, कौन सी सबसे ज्यादा है, और प्रायोरिटाइज करनी पड़ेगी. एंड ऑल्सो रिक्वेस्टेड टू ऑल द स्टूडेंट्स, जो आप ऐसे क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे हो ना कि रोज 5 दिन 5 सब्जेक्ट पढ़ना है या एक दिन एक सब्जेक्ट पढ़ना है, दे हैव टोल्ड इट लाइक 5 टाइम्स, डू व्हाट वर्क्स बेस्ट फॉर यू. तो जब तक करोगे नहीं ना, ऐसा नहीं कि कनिष्क ने बोल दिया 5 दिन 5 सब्जेक्ट पढ़ो, या मेघा ने बोल दिया एक दिन में एक पढ़ो, या परमिता ने बोला कि ऑल्टरनेट पढ़ो, या अर्चिशा ने बोला कि नहीं इंग्लिश 2 दिन पढ़ो. इज नॉट गोइंग टू वर्क. ये लोग कोई जादू का वो नहीं चढ़ाने वाले कि बोल दिया और कर लिया. Until you don't try it for yourself, you would not know. तो प्लीज आलसपन छोड़ो, जाओ ट्राई करो, 10-15 दिन का टाइम लो, देखो तुम्हारे लिए क्या बेस्ट वर्क करता है और फिर आओ. आई मीन ऐसा फॉर्मूला कैसे हो सकता है यार कि मेरे लिए क्या बेस्ट वर्क करता है? आई मीन इट्स फनी. You try it out for yourself and then you get to know. It's a very subjective thing, right?
तानिया एक आंसर मेरा हो सकता है कि तानिया तुम 2-4 मैट्रिक्स बनाओ. So if see I can study a class in a way like if study for 3 hours, I may take 3 sections, 1 hour, 1 hour each, and I take a day or two where actually I study for more number of hours. I can't study almost each and every day for long hours, but I must keep something for each and every day. Try out. If you start working out, make a plan. That's what I think. That's what all are saying. And Pulak want to say, make your own things, and that can work. Amit sir is there. Amit sir, are you there?
Can somebody
Yes,
answer
I'm
some
there.
of
I'm
these
there.
questions?
I'm listening to everyone. Hi, everyone.
So I think you have been there in the classes and all. So would you like to add something what this kid says, and what is your reaction listening all of them?
The kids have been fantastic. Okay, Kanishk, Megha, Parimita, I heard everyone, Archisha. Okay, and मुझे लगता है okay, मैं मेघा की शक्ल मुझे याद है, बाकी लोगों का उतना याद नहीं क्योंकि ये शायद वीडियोस ऑन नहीं करते होंगे. Okay, जैसे अभी बहुत सारे लोगों ने नहीं किया. Okay, so okay, see, balance is required. Okay, when you work life balance is required, and when you study life, that study and preparation balance is required, right? Okay, so okay, as everyone is saying, you need to prioritize the things, whatever is necessary, critical and important. Okay, finish it first. Less important things can wait. That's it. और कोई लाइफ में ऐसा फंडा नहीं है x² - 2x + 3 = 0 इसको हमने सॉल्व कर दिया और हमारा क्लैट निकल गया. ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता. So you need to take it on a daily basis, day by day, hour by hour. You need to enjoy the studies. That's it.
Yeah, we need to enjoy the preparation. Achha, this is there or not? Guys, ये वाला नहीं पूछा. Have you enjoyed the preparation? Because अच्छा इन लोगों का बैच तो ऐसा था ना, फर्स्ट मतलब बहुत दिनों बाद, या इवन आई कैन रिकॉल कि ये बैच ऐसा था ना कि अगर ये चलता रहता तो 2-4 पार्टी ऑर्गेनाइज जरूर सेंटर पे हो जाती.
नहीं, ये लोग बहुत एंजॉय करते थे. मेघा और अर्चिशा ने तो बहुत डाउट्स पूछे मेरे से. मेघा ने तो वो क्या बोलते हैं अरेंजमेंट पूछ के एकदम मेरे को च्यवनप्राश खाने पे मजबूर कर दिया.
So, like, again, we can add something. Is it the joy-based preparation, or I did my my engineering because I used to prepare for IIT. I couldn't crack during my college, like graduation days. I went for MTech. So, but मुझे अपना preparation time याद है कि जेई की preparation में ना कभी-कभी लगता था कुछ ज्यादा कर रहा हूँ और मतलब मजा भी नहीं आया तो भी पढ़. What about this? Because when I teach, I enjoy. वो तो देखो teachers का तो एक part है, so we enjoy. But I want to hear from you guys. One or two, अगर कोई कनेश का अर्चिशा मेघा कोई भी joy था क्या preparation में?
But I would definitely say yes, because boards is just rote learning, and I like despised my boards to the core. And CLAT is something which I only had to read, and reading is like a really passionate hobby of mine. So it was a real joy throughout. There was no single day where I had to force myself to, really study, and it was just fun throughout.
Super. क्या अर्चिशा?
Yes, sir, it's the same for me. I really like these subjects. All the classes, all the subjects, especially, even the questions may seem tough, like, critical reasoning. It's such an interesting subject for me. I used to score a bit less in that. I used to enjoy reading those questions because, these are you don't read these questions before. Like, you know, I ask other stream, you know, people from other streams and who are doing other preparations. Like, have you ever done questions like, you know, what are these things? What strengthens your argument? What is the weak flaw in the argument? What is the paradox? That is very interesting. And, you know, even these terms, that's why I thoroughly enjoyed the preparation. Like, it was just very interesting, each and everything that you're learning. And like Kanesh said, there was no rote learning. It is an advantage and a disadvantage in a way, but then again, it's honestly, so it just makes things much more interesting when it comes to your prep.
Then it is very, very good proposition, ना? एक तो पढ़ने में मजा आया और साथ में क्लैरिटी निकल गया तो पहुंच गए बड़े कॉलेज। तो मतलब इन्वेस्टमेंट तो गजब है। It's a very good investment to make, have a joy and then go to the great college and then enjoy.
Okay, so I want to ask this thing to know all the students that are currently preparing for 22 and 23. Okay, you have to use a raise hand options. How many of you want to be there in the next year and next to next year Achievers Meet as an achiever? Okay, raise your hands quickly.
Okay,
very good, very good. Okay, how many of you are there? मम्मी आपको काउंट दिखाई पड़ रहा है सर? रामानुज सर?
तो सारे ही हैं, 4-5 को छोड़ के।
4-5 को छोड़ के, ओके, वो 4-5 लोग कल या परसों पुलक मैम से उससे बात करें।
I also raised the hand.
सर हम 4-5 को छोड़ के रामानुज सर, अमित सर, पुलक मैम को छोड़ के।
मैंने तो रेज किया हैंड। If you are not,
मैं दोबारा तो NLU जाऊंगी नहीं, मैं भी कर देती हूँ सर। रेज हैंड कहाँ गया? Okay.
Obviously, I want to be a part of Achievers Meet. Yes.
Definitely. आज क्लास में मेरा Achievers Meet, so बच्चों को लीगल पढ़ने का मन नहीं था, they were like मैम एक Achievers Meet करते हैं।
Oh हाँ।
So they were like मैम मजा आ रहा है, जब पढ़ाने पे आगे they were like मैम Achievers Meet ही कंटिन्यू करते हैं।
I was not able to complete my session. मैं प्लस में ले रहा था सेशन, बीच में बोला आज ना मैं बहुत आराम से पढ़ा। मैंने कहा आज तो मैं शाम में बात करेंगे because I was really looking for it. I think that's it. Other guys, obviously these kids will be there, they will be helping out and we see them as a mentor. मुझे तो ऐसा लग रहा है बहुत अच्छी बात कर रहे हैं और समझ में आ रही, मुझे समझ में आ रही, तो मुझे लगता है आप लोग और भी समझ में आ रही। मैं तो कम समझता हूँ ना थोड़ा सा।
But yeah, I think now there are students who want to leave and chill Sunday. So thank you so much, Kanesh, Archisha, Parimita, Megha, for taking out time, being a part. Of course, we say it forever. The bond is forever. It's not just for a span of 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and you guys know that already. So of course, we'll keep troubling you, we'll keep bothering you, we'll keep calling you in the sessions, we'll keep calling you as judges in moot courts as well. So the ex-students, you already know कैसे परेशान करते आ रहे, कैसे आते रहे. So of course, you're part of CS, and we are always there for you. You guys know that. Kabhi bhi, anytime, we'll always be there. Please reach out to us, not only you four, but everyone. This is a message for all our students. Hope they also, hope they also know that. So thank you so much for taking out time, taking out good 1.5 hour, 2 hour time, being a part, enjoying the session, asking questions, being an interacting audience. And that's it. We'll keep conducting many more sessions like these. And as promised, a moot court तो is due. So बहुत सारे students का demand आ चुका है. So all these achievers, your ears एकदम open, तुम लोगों को भी आना है, participate करना है. So of course, many more sessions like this in future. We hope to keep on conducting, and we hope you guys कि तुम लोग enjoy करते रहो, participate करते रहो, interactive बनते रहो, और जल्दी हर साल बिल्कुल ऐसे bulk में लोग NLU Bangalore, NLU Delhi, NLU Hyderabad अच्छे NLUs जाते रहे. So yes, we wish you all the best.
Next year we need AIR 1 from the batch. Pressure नहीं दे रहा हूँ, मजे में करेंगे. अभी बोले ना मजे में. So I and Pulak and the team will be working. And Pulak, really I need a plan. We need, and kids has done it. वो बोल के किया है. वो बनहर का मैंने सुना, वो बोल के किया सब. जब बोल के कर सकता है, तो हम लोग भी प्लान करके कर सकते हैं. Really. Thank you very much. Wish you all very best. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Bye everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.